Hi, I'm Emily Bastian, the Vice President of Ending Homelessness at Avivo. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to take the next 15 to 20 minutes to talk about homelessness, the epidemic in the Twin Cities, and 3 specific Avivo programs focused on moving people into housing with supports. We are going to talk about our street outreach program, our hotel to home project, and our transitional recovery housing. Today, I am joined by some of our fabulous housing team leadership, David Jeffries, Carrie Johnson, Melissa Luna, and Claude Maddox. As you know, today is Give to the Max Day, which is Minnesota's biggest day of giving for your favorite nonprofits. And I hope you'll be inspired by our work and that you will consider Avivo for your giving today. You can see how to give below on our screen. So let's get started. Hey everyone, thanks for joining me for this conversation.
Hello.
Hi.
Greetings.
Carrie, let's start with you. Would you maybe share with us your role with the housing teams, and then tell us what you can about the growing homelessness epidemic in the Twin Cities, and in particular the urgency as we move toward winter?
Yes, that is a very loaded question that I could spend all day talking about, but I will keep it short. But yes, my name is Carrie Johnson. I am the Service Area Director of Housing at Avivo, so I support all of our housing projects that we have here. And as Emily had mentioned, she kind of coined the term homelessness pandemic or housing crisis. And she's absolutely right. We are definitely in a housing crisis, but unfortunately this isn't new. This isn't new to 2020. It's actually been something that Avivo has been trying to tackle since we launched our first housing program in 1998. But homelessness has been rising in Minnesota due to like inequalities, being more exposed, due to racism, systemic oppression, and then the lack of affordable housing, just not having enough units that are reasonably priced. So, on top of those barriers I just mentioned, which isn't all of them, but on top of all those barriers, you had COVID, which impacted us starting in March. The COVID pandemic has increased homelessness and has changed the stories a little bit, the stories that we're hearing kind of in our outreach team and the story that our staff are hearing out in the field. Not only do we hear the stories of, systemic oppression and racism, generational poverty, etc., but we are also hearing stories of people losing their jobs and just not having the resources to get their needs met, whether that's paying for rent or paying for food, childcare, things like that, as well as people who are underemployed. So they may have lost their job and now are working a job that doesn't pay enough to cover those costs. And then on top of that, we have this eviction ban, and it has decreased kind of our housing stock. Now that's a whole issue in of itself, but there isn't enough stock right now, and so as a result of that, people are having a hard time finding places to live. These issues all, compounded together, have kind of resulted in this like new exposure of unsheltered individuals. We saw kind of the uprise in encampments over the summer, starting with Powderhorn, and then them kind of being spread throughout the Twin Cities. Avivo has responded in so many ways to try to address the homelessness issue. First of all, starting back in 1998, starting our very first housing program, and then ever since that, expanding from 1 to 17 in just a couple of years. But more recently, in 2018, Avivo responded to the crisis by adding an outreach team and other housing staff to support the Wall of Forgotten Natives. And we were able to house over 100 individuals who were residing outside. And then in May of this year, we launched our Hotel to Home program, which works to house unsheltered individuals in a temporary hotel with the hopes of securing long-term housing. And then we're going to be launching our tiny homes project. So all of those things are, all those housing programs that are addressing homelessness have definitely made an impact. But it's definitely not addressing, it's not enough to address the need that is out there. And then last I would just say about is homelessness is a community issue. It takes a community to address this issue. All of the programs that Avivo have launched have been in support with the community, with the population that we're serving, with other providers. And so it's gonna take, everyone here, on this call, everyone who is, supporters of Avivo out in the community to support Avivo's cause in addressing and ending homelessness.
Thanks, Carrie.
Sure.
David, Carrie talked a little bit about our outreach program that started in or around 2018. I'm wondering, would you share with everyone a little bit more about how our outreach program began and our focus and kind of how our team does their work?
Sure. So the outreach team really started when Avivo staff provided care coordination at the wall of forgotten natives, like you mentioned, and Carrie referenced as well. So that need is a direct response to people who are unsheltered. And that program was created to engage those folks and meet those people where they're at. So creating a focused response to walk beside people who are looking to find a way home was one of the ways we could help our community. And then creating a holistic street outreach program was the key. So that walk looks a little bit different for everyone, if you can imagine. And the reason why we like to call it the walk, because we want to walk beside people and be person-centered and let them lead the interactions that we have when we meet folks on the street. And so that could be helping individuals or families connect to a community clinic for healthcare needs, access to funding for rent or deposit, or helping someone locate a job training program or family reunification. So it can look really different for everyone, if you can imagine. Since the COVID-19 pandemic exposed more inequities, we've been a little bit more creative with addressing people's housing and healthcare needs, and that street outreach program has done a really incredible job day to day meeting those needs and helping people connect, and we've become a really integral part of services for the community. And that's a little bit about our work.
Thank you. I think many of our projects have milestones or days that we remember, or kind of situations, things that we remember. And I know Carrie and I were around in 2018 with the Wall of Forgotten Natives, and I don't think we will ever kind of forget the day that our programs changed in October of 2018. And David, my guess is that there's a day in May of 2020 for the street outreach team that will be kind of a memorable day as kind of a turning point a little bit in the services that we provide. Wondering if you can say a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in May and in June as well, I mean, we were in a different place in the city and in this state, this country, and in the world with the murder of George Floyd and all these really terrible social issues and healthcare issues all kind of at once. We have an opioid crisis, unchecked homelessness, the pandemic of COVID-19, racial inequality, oppression, was a really, really hard. It's been really, really hard on a lot of folks. So thinking about that, as we were out in the heat, working with an encampment, a number of folks living there, we decided, could we get some folks to a hotel. And it simply was just a conversation between the outreach workers at Avivo, like, what should we do? Well, let's get a couple in a hotel. And so so let's start with the sickest. And so we worked from that premise of, hey, this person needs help. Let's get them into a hotel and get them health care, get them into housing potentially down the road. That one turned into like 11, and the 11 turned into 20, and then the 20 turned into 70 people. And we just kept going, and we wanted to help everyone that day. And that day was really incredible for me as a person that's been involved with this work since 2008, and how we all came together as a team and all these layers of work, and we really just implemented everything on the fly, and it worked out. And I think it's because we really needed it, and so as a community. And so it was incredible to be a part of it. And that really led to the hotel to housing project. And we actually thought through some other parts too, but I can let Melissa talk about that. But it was just incredible to see, that bus get filled with human beings who were in need. And for us to be there to help support that was incredible.
Thank you, David. Melissa, what is this hotel to home initiative that we've mentioned a couple of times? Can you tell us a little bit about it, what you and your team do, and kind of what that looks like and the goals?
Yeah. Related to what all of you have been saying, it really started with, the unrest in the community and the continued relocation of the different encampments, and it being more difficult for people to feel safe and to feel like they can connect with their resources. So as David said, the outreach team, and he connected with others in Avivo to, bring up this idea, where can we get folks somewhere that's safe, where they can connect, where we're able to build better relationships, in this time of the unknown, with COVID going on. There's so many different things that are negatively impacting. How can we build a community to keep folks to feel safe and to move forward through all of their different traumas and experiences? So the Hotel to Home project, we coordinate very closely with the outreach team to get folks that are currently unsheltered, experiencing homelessness, into hotels. And then from there, we connect with them to assist with finding different resources, again, building the relationships, helping them find permanent long-term housing. The goal is within their 90 days. We don't want them to, settle in too much here. We want them to feel comfortable and safe, but the goal is to help them find that stable housing that is long-term. And just like David said, it looks different for everybody. So we have staff on site 24/7 that are continually building relationships with staff or with the residents, and seeing what might be the best placement for them to help them be successful and get that long-term housing. We collaborate with a lot of outside agencies, along with internally with Avivo, connecting to get folks mental health services, medical services, substance use supports if needed. And so just really helping them find those needs and connect with those needs for that long-term stability. And then ideally they would have a case manager to help them once they get housed to continue those services and to find a place that's home for them, that they're still connected with their community too.
I would just add that the thing that I love so much about this team, and again, this is 5% of our team, there's 45, 50 of us that are doing this work every day. But what I love about this team, these leaders that we have on our housing team, is that they have a vision. They can have these visions on ways that we can address homelessness that are creative and really meet the clients where they're at. And they go for it. Like, they're not afraid to try new models, try new practices, try things. If at the end of the day, it's going to end homelessness or give someone the support they need. And just hearing that these two programs that we've heard about so far, and there's, tiny homes we'll be talking about in CLOD's transitional housing program. But these two programs were, David had this vision of let's put people in hotels, and within 6 hours, we did that. And so I just think that that's what's so incredible about this team and is so unique about this team is that we're not afraid to try new things if at the end of the day it's going to end homelessness, because that's what we're here to do. So I appreciate hearing these stories again, though I'll never forget them. I'll never forget October 8th, and I'll never forget May 28th ever. They were big days for Vivo. But it's just great to just be reminded that we're in it for the right reasons. And we will do whatever it takes to end homelessness.
Yeah. Well, Claude, let's talk a little bit about the program that you provide leadership to. I mean, we've talked about individuals who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness and doing outreach and moving people into housing, moving people into hotels. But another really big program that we have at Avivo that addresses homelessness or housing instability is our transitional recovery housing program. I mean, what a lot of people maybe don't think about is that individuals who are looking for and in need of treatment for chemical use are also oftentimes experiencing homelessness or housing instability. And maybe that came first, maybe the substance use came first, who knows, but our project doesn't care. It doesn't matter. We recognize that in order for people to truly kind of walk into recovery, whatever that means for them, stable, safe housing is a must.
Exactly.
Right? And so that's the project that you get to provide leadership to every day. So I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit about the importance of housing for individuals that are experiencing a substance use disorder and homelessness, and kind of what that project looks like that you lead.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Emily. It's important to note that those folks that come to us for treatment and housing have experienced those inequalities that all of you have talked about, have firsthand knowledge of the oppression that you've all talked about. It's also important for me to share that when people come to Avivo for treatment, they have had the courage to walk through the doors and begin what is a challenging and new way to begin life. And that takes lots of courage to do that. As you spoke to, Emily, many of those who live with us while they're in treatment have been homeless and or have been staying places that are not safe. And while they're with us, it's important that we provide food and those other essential things that people need so that they're successful in treatment. And when I talk about essential things, those essential things are the same things that any of us who are here today need for ourselves and for our families in our homes, in our places where we reside. We have the opportunity to serve over 100 people when they are here in treatment. And at least 25 of those include families that are with us as well, and their children. And we are the only ones in the state who have moms and children up to 17 years old and sometimes older. So we have the opportunity to really wrap some services around folks while they're here in our housing and treatment. And it's important to note that while people are here, they can work with our current housing team, and we're even looking to expand that so we have more services in housing for folks. And we want to create safe spaces while folks are in housing so that they can tell us what they think, what they feel, and what they need. And those are life skills that folks can either enhance and or develop, and they can take with them beyond Avivo. So I am often excited to do some very challenging service work on behalf of others, because it's the right thing for us to do. So.
Thank you. So those of you that are tuning in, I hope what you will take away from this conversation is the importance of looking at services and housing and homelessness from a broad lens, from a lens that takes into account the lived experience of those that we're serving, and the importance of being truly creative to meet the needs of individuals that are ever evolving. And you know, before we wrap this up, it's important to also share what makes Avivo a little bit different. And that's that this crowd that you've heard from today that provides housing services and all of their teams who do a phenomenal job every day also have access to all of the other internal Avivo program opportunities that we offer. And so at the right time, and when people are interested, they have access to our treatment program, our mental health clinic. They have access to our employment and career training services. And so without having to go to another organization, we are able internally to help people get some additional services, again, at the right time. I'm so proud of this team. I mean, this is a team, this is an organization who does this work because their heart is in it. You know, this is a group that approaches their work with incredible humility, and I enjoy any opportunity that I have to talk about the really hard work and the really great impactful work that this crowd does. I hope that you will all choose to stay connected with us at Avivo. You can visit us on our social media sites. You can visit our website at avivomn.org. Thank you again for tuning in on Give to the Max Day. Thank you.